This is Growing Your Firm, the podcast for ambitious accountants and firm owners who want to work smarter, grow faster, and lead better. I'm your host, David Cristello. Let's get into it.
Hey everybody, David Cristello here, founder and CEO of Jetpack Workflow and host of Growing Your Firm podcast. Today's guest is Ben Taylor. He is the CEO at SoftLedger. Right before I hit record, we were talking about Ben's background. Ben was a CPA. He was working as a CPA for over 10 years, and he got the itch to start his own thing. And in some cases, that means starting your own firm. I think a growing trend of what's happening is it also now means starting a technology company. And we're going to unpack what that means. But Ben went from a practicing CPA to moving into software. And we were talking right before we hit record, and we just started rattling off all these folks that went from CPA to software entrepreneur. And I was saying, like, people on the Growing Your Firm podcast, we had Jackie Meyer on, we had Kelly, Jackie Meyer now does tax plan at Q. She used to run a firm. We had Kelly Mann on. She used to run a firm. Now she runs Audit Miner. We've had people that come on the show and they're like, I run a firm, but I'd love to do software. We've had Hector Garcia on, who launched Right, I think it's Right Tool, a QBO extension. And then Ben was like, well, I know some people too. And he started listing off names, and we're like, we need to dissect this new trend. And I think Ben's going to be a great proof case of what that looks like from moving from practicing CPA to a software entrepreneur, because I feel like there's this real desire in our community to start launching tools and software, and I think that's only going to increase. That said, Ben, welcome to the show.
David, thanks for having me on. Yeah, great intro. Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity here within. There's these deep, insidious problems that corporate accountants and firm owners run into that can only be solved by them really jumping in and solving them at that level of detail, that real the pain point that they have in their own work.
Yeah. Well, take us back. What is it? Is it about 10 years or so? Take us back to when you first got the idea for SoftLedger. What was going on? What were you working on? And we'll kind of take it from there. Then how you built the team and how you started building the product. But where did the kernel start?
Sure. So it will be 10 years in April. Yeah, I was managing a few different areas in the accounting department for a small public company in Chicago. Using Microsoft Dynamics GP, and that was one of the first general purpose accounting systems ever brought to market, and it's been around for a while. Clunkiness, the cloud version's kind of like not really cloud version, and because of that, it just took forever to get the financials every month, and so I had that classic epiphany: there has to be a better way, and in April started coming up with like the wireframes of like what this product should look like.
And by wireframes, you're drawing what you think.
Yeah.
You're like the app interface. Like you're drawing essentially rectangles and squares and circles of like, this would be my dream solution.
Printer paper with like an accountant's very, very terrible drawing of like what a screen should look like.
Like a physical drawing. You're not opening up prototyping tools at this time. It's just a physical drawing on a sketch pad or office paper. Yeah.
Yeah. There's somewhere probably and filed away here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did that. And then my longtime friend, Jeff Ostrega, who's our CTO and co-founder, I was in Chicago at the time. He was coming there for work. So I kind of chipped away at trying to convince him like, this is a good enough idea. we should give this a shot. And it took a bit of convincing to say, like, and doing this sort of thing, showing that like, okay, there is really something here, because he's to convince him to spend his time on it's a big deal. And so
that's one of the hardest things, because in the beginning, the workload typically is very asymmetric. And like, I mean, there's market work you can do in marketing you could be doing, but as a non-technical founder, you're not doing the heavy lifting of coding. Like they will have to spend time building the V1, right? And it's not to say you're not doing anything, but there is a big lift when you're asking people to come build this thing. From the moment you kind of planted the seed to when he was like, I'm in, was that days, weeks, months? How long did that take?
Probably maybe a month and a half or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was, I was constantly thinking about this, each screen, how things connected, how the things should work, and so I think, up front, it was, there's obviously a lot of work prototyping it, which is, he's doing and saying, okay, should it look like this? You do that first before you kind of like, code it in a way that's like, ready for someone to actually use it. Um, but yeah, there was this collaborative, like, how do you get this accounting idea of how to solve it into code, and then you say, oh, it should do this, this, and this, and then you have to realize that there's trade-offs. Like you can't do all of the things automatically in software, and so there was this push and pull, and really that lasted years. After we had gone full time and started the company, and it takes a lot of iterating to build something that's big. And yeah, I mean, you know too, David, as a
Yeah.
software company, it's yeah.
Well, so Jeff's your co-founder. You've
Mhm.
known him for years, but it took about 6 weeks for him to say, yeah, I'm in. But what did that mean for the both of you? Was that full time burn the boats, or you're like, we're gonna moonlight this to get V1 out?
Moonlighting, yes, we did this nights and weekends for a while,
Well, how long's a while?
like almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
year at least. Like yeah. So that's April 2015. Let's say we're both like, okay, I'm in by like June of 2015, and then nights and weekends, iterating, trying to figure it out, and then in February of 2017, so 8 years ago, almost to the day, we went full time when we got our first investor, Mucker Capital, in Santa Monica, California. We moved to Santa Monica.
Yes.
Yeah. And then just took it. Yeah. Started building and trying to get customers, and yeah.
So 2 years of moonlighting to get it together. You're still working your job. He was working his job,
Mhm.
and you were going back and forth. At the end of the 2 years, was it you were case zero, you're customer one, you specifically for what you're doing? Did you have other customers lined up, or
We
not yet?
No,
Okay.
no. And the problem, I think it's if you're building a bookkeeping platform for like a startup, you can talk to the other companies that are in your portfolio, your investors' portfolio, and say, try this out. And the problem with ours is I was building it for me, and I was working at a public company. It's like we're building at like that level of sophistication, which is overkill for day one, or even like day, 2 years, for a startup. We just had to iterate. So February of 2017 we went full time. It was January of 2018 before we had our first paying customer.
All right, this is amazing. Um, and it's amazing because I think this is more common than occasionally you hear these software stories. Well, actually, these are probably software stories you always hear, which is, oh, we launched and then 3 months later we hit 500,000 in ARR or something like that. And you're just like, yeah, that's magical. That's literally on the stage of magic. Like the rest of us who have to live on Earth and not what's the realm Middle Earth, for the rest of us who have to live on Earth, it's
Mm.
gonna take years. Occasionally, you see these like, shooting stars that are like 500,000, 1 million in year one. I mean, this is the extreme exception. Even with all the distribution channels opening up and blah blah blah, it's still very hard. So I appreciate the timeline. Now, okay, so you have your co-founder, you go out to start pitching. All right. You again, your background, you're Mr. Accountant. I mean, Jeff is in software, but it's not like this was the first company he was involved in too, right? As opposed to co-founding or
Yeah. We both had normal corporate jobs,
yeah.
let's to start this.
Yeah. By the way, before I ask this question about investment in Mucker Capital, was it hard to sustain the work through 2 years? Like, was there ever a point where Jeff was like, dude, I can't, like, this is like, I'm a year into this and this is taking forever? Or was there always just like this, like, if we do this, we get our own thing, right? There's always this like bigger why behind it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a decent amount of work, but it was kind of like you're still in like pet project phase. You have your day job, and like you're really interested in this project that you want to, to see through. And so our thing was like, as soon as we get some, the validation that comes with an outside investment, and then also the money, of course, to say, okay, this de-risk this a bit. We think we got something here, but that will really push us over. And so that first investment is really what did it. It was through their startup accelerator too, so we got access to that and kind of advice going in to screw up a little bit less. Would have otherwise.
And how much money was it, and how long was the accelerator?
So it was $120,000.
Yeah.
And we thought that was all the money that would possibly be needed, for
when I tell you, when I got 25K, so I did an accelerator too. My reaction was like, I just got $25 million. Like it was way like, and granted, I live in Pittsburgh, it's a low cost of living city, but I was like, this is gonna last me forever. I thought it was just like the most amount of money ever that somebody just like dropped into the bank account. It was just because I was grinding similar to you, but the difference was I was paying out a contractor every month out of my own wallet, and so I was just ripping these like $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 checks. So when I was like, I got 25K, I'm like, oh, thank goodness I could stop the bleeding. But yeah, 120. I mean, it pays your rent, right? It pays for food, right?
Yeah, and we thought, okay, we'll compare ourselves something small, and we'll, and so more on that. Like we, eventually we realized, okay, 0 is a better number for ongoing salary until we get things going. But
how long were you at 0?
Were
you paying yourself so after you went full time, it sounded like you were at Mucker.
Yeah.
And you had 120K in the bank, and you're like, we're each going to pay ourselves a modest salary to cover our living expenses. But it sounded like that ran out.
Yeah. I'd say like, I forget when 0 happened, but it probably like September of that year, it was like, oh, okay, this is not when we didn't have a single real customer. We'd done so many demos, and it was like, I think, maybe September 2017, we got it down to 0, or maybe there was like another step, and then it was probably 6 months of flat 0, and then getting it up a little bit, and then we weren't at a point where it was like, okay, we're like okay, and not like really killing ourselves until that was probably when we got our seed investment, which was 2021. So it was we kind of brought it up a bit in the interim, but it was a long time of like 0 or very, very sub market rates to go off of.
And is this burning off savings, or the spouses kind of carrying some of the financial weight? Like, or did you Uber at night? Like, what were you doing to like eat food?
Yeah, I think without having very understanding spouses that had normal regular jobs.
Okay.
I know personally that would have been this probably wouldn't have worked, to be candid. I mean, you would like, there's a long stretch of that. There's a lot of things have to, and there's like the ups and downs that come with, the financial piece is just a very core component of all of the to get through all that. So it was that was key to get through the. And I don't think, going into this, I didn't have an appreciation for how much like those circumstances are real. Like that's real life. Like you can't, we're not 25. Like, like there's a point where you could kind of like just do it more on it's just me. I can kind of like, white knuckle this, but that wasn't the case for either of us.
Yeah. And so that first customer that came on in January of 2018, so your funds for Mucker had ran out, so 120 is gone. You're running on fumes. Customer comes on board January 2018. What do they start paying you per month or per year? Like what is this? Is this a decent sized customer? Like who is this?
We thought it was the best thing ever, and it was a company we had I networked my way into getting referred to a company that was going bankrupt and coming off of Intact. And so we thought, great, we got a company off of Intact, but it's, it's basically for record keeping ongoing, which was great because now we had our first customer, but it was like, $300 per month or something.
Yeah. Right.
And so but that first one, it was so important. And then the next conversation, oh, we have this customer that so we have one, but you do have a customer, and so it just that helps to get the next and the next. And so that was January 2018. Our second customer was March. Our third was April, and it just kind of kept on building from there. And then
Was there something that was missing in the product that by January of 2018 allowed you to close these deals? Or was the product kind of ready for months and it was just learning the right go-to-market and sales motion? Or did you have to unlock a specific feature?
It's like this, what is a complete general ledger is this nebulous thing that like no one really knows. People usually know like brand names, and they know, oh, like this one or that one is gonna cover me. And so I think we just reached a critical mass of like enough things working that somebody could go, okay, I can get this going and this will work for me. But I mean, we've been like, I say last year, really like the last really core piece where I'm like, this is okay. Everything is done. That happened last year. So like,
it's a big product. I think for people listening too, I want to say these things take a long time.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, what you had to build was incredibly robust and complex as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just I want to say something there is like, is the harder and more complex it is, the bigger the market, the more things are like don't rock the boat. Everyone's kind of like, there's the ecosystem built around the fact that these products have the gaps that they do, and big businesses have been built around those, and there's a lot of friction to like punch a hole in that and say, okay, no, we're going to carve out this new general ledger. So I'd say because of that, a lot of the really, really hard parts were extremely front loaded.
Wow.
I heard no or didn't get a response to probably like 15,000 literally outbound inquiries before we got that first like bankrupt customer as our it was, and then we had one, and then we kind of it was, there were a lot more no's at the beginning than I ever could have expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now just to transition a little bit. So today we're shooting this 2025. Are you paying yourself a wage now? Like, are you?
Oh yeah. So we've been
paid?
we raised our seed round in so we largely bootstrapped, but then and we're just very efficient from the get-go, but we've raised $2.6 million today. All the vast majority of that came from our seed round in May of 2021.
Okay.
And so that allowed us to think a little bit more out than the next few months. And then we kind of didn't, nothing crazy, but paid ourselves something normal that was not making us consistently sweat about the next
In 2021, when you raised, how many customers did you have at that point? It sounded like 2018, the snowball started to work, and you were probably picking up maybe you got to a dozen customers that year.
Mm-hmm.
When you raised, was that 50, 100, 200? Like what? Was it about 100? Where you were like, because when you get that amount of money, people feel like your product is meeting a demand, and now you want to scale up a little bit. So I'm curious, where for you in such a big platform, roughly what size were you at from a market perspective?
So we were raising after the Mucker investment, we raised from some angels. We went through another startup accelerator.
Okay, so you had some bridge money.
And some bridges along the way that just kind of let us a little bit for.
I hear you. I did the same thing, right? Which is just if you see an appetite for an investment, you're like, yeah, well, I'm broke right now. So if anybody wants to help get a piece of this, I'm willing to entertain a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so yeah, convertible notes for a while, and then And then the last outside money we raised was that seed round in 2021, and that kind of was enough to like get us over and round out some things, like hire more and take that a longer term view.
You mentioned before we hit record, there's a number of companies, even outside the ones I mentioned, that have been launched through somebody in corporate accounting, and then they maybe did a somewhat similar journey. Do you remember that list? What were some of the ones that came to mind for you?
Sure. Yeah. So like, there's the audit board. They're actually they had a successful exit, right? I forgot when that was, but they went. They're also a Mucker portfolio company. There's Flowcast, also in LA. Lease Query, now FinQuery, started by corporate accountants. So they're out there. It's just I think when you and we were talking about this a bit prior, is when you look at the founding CEO and the founders, but also I think the that sets the tone as well. And you think of whether or not they have a deep corporate accounting background, and whether they're a CPA. It doesn't necessarily need to be a CPA, but often that ends up being the case as well. There's not that many software companies like that, and so I think that sometimes that's overlooked because it seems like this this office of the CFO investment purview is growing, but there's these deep these problems that you only really know by doing the job.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them that still need to be solved. And I think that there's, if you find one of these and you're an experienced accountant, there could really be something there. Don't expect it to be easy, especially up front, but over the long term, there could be a huge market for that, for solving that problem.
Yeah. And I do think AI tooling is going to help accelerate that, but the expectation should still be that it's a grind. So maybe you're not building a ledger, but whatever you're building is probably going to take months. And if you're doing it first go around, depending on who you partner with, it might take a couple go rounds. To do it. Like the first version of Jetpack I got back, I'm like, this is cool because I can click it, and that was mind blowing to me that I saw it. But I was like, what's not great about this is it's like essentially unusable. And whatever you did to build it, I can't bring to anybody else. Like this is like spaghetti. It's a spaghetti product, spaghetti code, but that's what I gave them to work from, which is like spaghetti mocks and spaghetti user stories. So there's a lot more data out there and best practices on like how to get things started. But at the end of the day, you are most likely building something where you're charging 100 or 300 or maybe if you're good and lucky 500 a month, and you need a lot of customers to start paying the bills at that, and it just takes time to get that snowball going at 100 or 200 or $500 a month. Right, so both the product takes time and the acquisition takes time, so these things are typically a grind.
It's all and then kind of learning the trade-offs that happen when you try to my accountant brain thought, a number, like numbers will always add up, like this plus this is going to be, that should just work. And then I come to realize how JavaScript works, and like math is not always so simple as, I was thinking there's, for an accounting software to work, a lot of stuff had on the back end to force computer science to kind of merge with the rules of accounting.
Yeah, it gets surprisingly complex even at Jetpack when we just dealing, so we do a lot of due dates, and time zones are a thing. Right? And so depending on where you're logging, I mean, small things, they're all been figured out, but you interact with a surprising level of complexity pretty quickly, even for things you thought were like very basic and obvious when you started.
Yeah, the time zones, man. Well, that was, it took us a while.
Yeah, time zones are terrible.
Yeah.
Ben, if somebody wants to reach out, learn more about what you built, learn more about your store, what's the best way for our community to connect with you?
So you can find us on softledger.com as our website, or feel free to reach out directly at ben@softledger.com.
Brilliant. Yeah, and I will say, I put out this LinkedIn post the other day, and I think I tagged you in it, and I was like, what's everybody using for their multi-entity, accounting software? And I wouldn't say the post went viral, but there were literally dozens of responses. Like there's clearly challenges in this space. People had talked about SoftLedger. I know you came in and you gave some content as well. And so if folks are trying to wrap their head around this space, you haven't taken a look at SoftLedger, I would recommend you do so. Connect out, reach out with Ben. If you're an accountant and you have an itch to build a product, reach out to Ben, reach out to me on LinkedIn, DM us. I'm offering your time here a little bit, Ben, but I think this stuff is always fun to talk about. It's fun to talk shop and see what people are interested in building. If you couldn't jot down all the notes, the story of what we just went through, we're going to link up everything at jetpackworkflow.com/blog. That's jetpackworkflow.com/blog. We'll do a full write-up. We'll link out to our LinkedIns, to softledger.com. Anything else that was mentioned on the show, Mucker Capital, right? So maybe you're in a place where you're trying to think about accelerators. We'll link up to some of the people you've worked with, Ben. And if you enjoyed today's episode, it's a bit different. We typically talk about running a firm, but because we see this trend where there's more firm owners, leaders, and partners wanting to launch software, we thought it'd be cool to kind of pull back the curtains of this journey. So if you enjoyed it, leave a review. Let us know what you think. And if you really enjoyed it, share it with a fellow firm owner, practitioner, CPA that might be wanting to go on this journey. Ben, it's been a real treat. I appreciate your time.
Likewise. Yeah, this was fun. Thanks for having me on.